Yes, people, it's LokiMan07 back with another YouTube video. And as you all know, the PS5 presentation happened, and Final Fantasy 16 was announced. This, of course, is a fighting game channel, but as you already know, I cover other things from here to there that gather my interest. Final Fantasy, I cover quite often sometimes. Check out the videos, okay? But yeah, Final Fantasy 16 was announced. Forgive me, I'm not at home right now. I'm doing this on my phone, and I've got a bit of the snivels. But what I want to do in this video, I've already watched the trailer. I haven't taken much in, so we're going to watch this trailer together, and we're going to analyze what's going on. Okay. Another thing I like to mention, though. Okay, this is a weird theory of mine. Okay. Take it for as you will. Okay. Final Fantasy games originally were always console exclusives. Okay, so Final Fantasy 1 to 6 were Nintendo exclusives. Okay, and then Final Fantasy 7 happened, and the PlayStation exclusivity happened, right? And then we went from 7 to 12. Okay, all decent games, all the Nintendo games, all the PlayStation games. You couldn't argue. And then what I like to call the curse of Xbox happened when the Final Fantasy games went multi-platform. Okay, sounds ridiculous, but we got a bunch of faff for a while, and then voila, Final Fantasy 7 remake happens. Okay, and regardless of what I think of the ending or what anyone else thinks of the ending or the direction where the game is going, the game and the gameplay itself is pretty cool. Okay, it's a good game. I've always stated that on this channel. Final Fantasy 7 remake, it's a good game. I enjoyed that game. Okay, yeah. So this game, Final Fantasy 16, is a PlayStation 5 console exclusive. Okay, maybe this will be a good game too. Okay, based on that fact. Okay, maybe the Xbox curse is real. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'll get serious now. Let's get into this actual trailer. Okay, and we're going to watch a bit, and then I'm going to have a little discussion and break down what's going on as we go through. Let's go.
You all know the target. Shiva's dominant. And only the dominant.
How do we even know the girl will be among us?
Our kind do not question orders, we follow them.
Okay, straight off the bat, right, what we're getting here is that this guy's a bit of an arse. There seem to be a nation of people, his people, and they're claiming that Shiva is dominant. My guess is that Shiva is kind of like the how can I put it? She's like the mascot for their nation. We'll call it that. Let's go.
Sergeant, let's summon their icon.
Icon? That thing's a bloody mountain!
See, these icons, quotation marks, are Aeons, Guardian Forces, Summons, whatever you want to call them, and it seems like these two opposing nations at war each have a different icon, so to speak. So there's one icon of Shiva, and they're going against the Titans, or the people that have Titan as their Aeon icon, etc. Good premise so far. Very Final Fantasy. Let's go.
Our foe will not relinquish their mother crystal easily. This will be a bitter fight.
You should not be out of doors. We have discussed this. Come, Joshua.
One thing I'd like to state here is that the design, the look of the game, the art style. Final Fantasy seems to go through various art styles. If there's a place called Ivalice, or Ivalice, however you pronounce it, in this game, I wouldn't be surprised. It seems to be going for the Final Fantasy Tactics, or the old school Final Fantasy 9 type of look. And the designs of the characters, they seem to be quite Final Fantasy 14 looking. Okay, but let's continue.
Your father will be expecting us.
I am Joshua's shield. I'm sworn to protect him.
Okay, we don't know what's going on with Joshua or who Joshua is, but Joshua seems to be that kid. The kid seems to have something special about him, as you'll see later on in the trailer. But what the trailer does now is show battle. Okay, well, let's look at this stuff.
What do you mean you refuse? Did you not pledge your sword to our cause?
If it isn't Halitosis himself, Mr. Marlborough, looking super detailed. Okay. The battle system, of course, as we expect with modern Final Fantasy games, is nowhere near turn-based looking. It looks very, very action-orientated. I hope they add some depth to this, like they did with Final Fantasy VII Remake, because one of the best things about Final Fantasy VII Remake is the battle system. People that do not like the Final Fantasy VII Remake battle system probably are terrible at decision making and, you know, games in general, because that battle system has a learning curve which is cool. It's always better to be trash when you start a game and have to learn. And it's very in depth, very good. I hope that this battle system has similar attributes to the Final Fantasy VII Remake battle system, since it is action. It could be very, very good. It could be trash, who knows? Let's go. Malboro looks awesome though.
What does it matter? It was the Dalmex who drove back the Crusaders in the Battle of the Twin Realms, was it not?
Without the blessing of the Mother Crystal, we cannot defend our realm from the spread of the Blight.
Alright, it's going full Final Fantasy, okay? It's about crystals, okay? And the spread of some blight, which is probably some plague or some force of evil, who knows? But it seems interesting.
So, the Sentinel Dragoons. Imperial Vipers. Do they really mean...
This guy looks freshly ripped out of Final Fantasy 12, like he's one of the judges, okay? The art style of this game, right, explains a lot. Like I said earlier, it seems to be going for that old school type of look, kind of like what Final Fantasy 12 had, Final Fantasy Tactics had, Final Fantasy 9 had. So we'll be seeing knights like this, or judges. Hopefully, in fact, I'll save that for later.
Invaders.
Archduke's son.
Phoenix.
Joshua! Stop this!
Second light on a fire. But that's impossible.
Guys, see, the Joshua kid seemed to summon the legendary Phoenix. Okay, this game looks like it's going to be awesome-ish. Okay, the use of these Guardian forces, Aeons, or what have you, it is implemented into the story, so it won't be tacked on. Hopefully this turns out really well. Okay, right, hopefully. Before I continue, there's obviously stuff going on with these children, with this Joshua kid. Okay, and seems to be tied to the descendants of some kind of bloodline. Okay, which we're going to have to see what information Square puts out about the game over time, but it's definitely bloodline related and kingdoms that have attachments to these Aeons. But let's continue.
The legacy of the crystals. Has shaped our history.
Sorry, when I first saw that, I thought that was a Bahamut, but upon closer inspection, that is Ifrit, isn't it? I think that's Ifrit.
I'll kill you. If it's the last thing I do.
Okay, so, you know, one negative I'm seeing in this trailer, I think the voice acting is pretty trash. Okay, we'll see. All right, but that can be deceptive at times, especially when it comes to Japanese RPGs. But you know, when they just throw dialogue on top of the trailer, I thought that about Final Fantasy VII Remake at first, but the voice acting in that game is really good. The voice acting in this game could be really good, but you know, initially, you know, the voices tacked onto the trailer, they just seem a bit out of place and a bit cliched. But let's continue. And as you can see, it's PlayStation console exclusive. Yeah, I think that's about yeah, it ends right there. When it comes to Final Fantasy games, I tend not to get my hopes up, but as a long-time fan, I'm always optimistic. That's a lie, but but I try to be optimistic. I would love Final Fantasy to get back to being the king of RPGs, right? So that's always something that I want for Square and the series. So I'm hoping that Square is going to pull some magic out of their butt cheeks with this one and make a a good Final Fantasy game based on classic principles. For example, the art style, the locations, the use of summons and stuff like that all seems to be spot on. Like I said, it's one of those type of games like Final Fantasy Tactics where if you come across a city called Ivalice, don't be surprised. And games that are set in that art style tend to be really good. I think the one I like the least is probably like Final Fantasy 12, but it's still a great game. But it had a few flaws in it. But I mentioned that in another video, the flaws of Final Fantasy 12. But all I can say is that, you know, I look forward to this game. I will be playing it. I will be purchasing it. The trailer's cool. The graphical fidelity doesn't seem like gameplay will be compromised. That is a thing. If the console has to do too much rendering and stuff like that, gameplay does suffer. It's kind of like the Final Fantasy 15 thing, okay, where your ambition is too high, therefore the gameplay will suffer. And so this game could be good. We don't know if it's open world. We don't know if it's linear. I don't even know if they mention if it's multiplayer or single player. Hopefully it's single player. I don't think numbered Final Fantasy games should be multiplayer games. I think numbered Final Fantasy games should be the ones with a spin-off name, because it doesn't make sense. Okay, only Final Fantasy does this. They'll have like a single player game, and then the following game in the series of this single player game is an MMO. Like what? So hopefully it's a single player game, and I'm looking forward to more info from Square. Fingers crossed that this game is awesome. Okay, that's pretty much all I've got to say. Peace out, people. Like and subscribe, or nah. Okay. And thank you for your time. Peace, people.